Elite Facts presents
Top 10 Doctor Who Easter Eggs.
10.
Now, with the show Doctor Who running for over 50 years, there's bound to have been a lot of hidden Easter eggs in the show's history. So here we have the top 10. First off is the fact that a line from 2013's Christmas special, Time of the Doctor, which most people think was just a humorous one-liner, was actually based on something else entirely. Clara claimed that she accidentally invented a boyfriend, to which the Doctor replies by saying that he once did that too, and they aren't easy to get rid of. This was a reference to the 2003 animated web series for Doctor Who, Scream of the Shalka. This story is now known as an alternate timeline written by Paul Cornell, where Robert E. Grant is the Doctor after Paul McGann. There is quite a lot of homoerotic subtext between the Doctor and the Master that has very clearly been added intentionally, implying something was going on between the two. At one point in this story, the Master's brain is transferred into an android body on the TARDIS, implying this is what he meant by inventing a boyfriend. Not many people know of this Easter egg as it hasn't been confirmed, and the Master wasn't technically the Doctor's boyfriend. Many people still wonder to this day what the Doctor meant when talking to Clara in Time of the Doctor.
9.
Next up is Ellie's Death. Now, for those who aren't aware, Ellie is Clara Oswald's mother, who died when Clara was very young. The cause of death was never properly revealed, but many have speculated that her death was due to the Autons. The reason for this is because in the episode The Rings of Achaton, we see a flashback of Clara standing over her mother's grave, upon which the death date is shown as March 5th, 2005. For the casual viewer, this may mean nothing, but to those bigger fans, people have figured out that this is just a few weeks before the first episode of Doctor Who was released when it was brought back in 2005. In this episode, Rose, the enemy, is the Autons, and they killed many people. It's never specifically stated when it takes place, other than 2005, so it's entirely possible that Ellie was alive then, until she met her untimely death from the Autons. Granted, it's a slight bit of guesswork, but it would be a very interesting link if that was the case.
8.
Now we go into the 50th anniversary episode of the show, Day of the Doctor. At the very start of the episode, a policeman walks past Coal Hill School, which already is a cool moment for longtime fans, as Coal Hill was the school in the very first episode of the show. But the Easter egg is more difficult to spot. Written on the board outside the school in the opening scene is, quote, Chairman of the Governors, I. Chesterton. Most viewers would not have noticed this small detail, or even if they did, they wouldn't have connected it with anything. But in actual fact, I. Chesterton is referring to Ian Chesterton. Ian was one of the Doctor's very first companions who used to work as a teacher in Coal Hill School back in 1963, until he was whisked away in the TARDIS through no choice of his own. To see that he still works in the school 50 years later is a huge thing for the major fan.
7.
For number 7, we delve into the episode Blink, written by Stephen Moffat. This is a bit of a funny Easter egg, as it's sort of like Easter Eggception. First of all, there's an Easter egg in the plot of the story that acts as a sort of clue for the main character of the episode, Sally Sparrow. This Easter egg is a 5-minute-long video of the Doctor talking to the camera, seemingly saying random words and phrases. It turns out, towards the end of the episode, that it actually acts as a half of a conversation throughout time between the Doctor in 1969 and Sally Sparrow in 2007. Now, the fun part for us is the actual Easter egg. Well, believe it or not, on the Series 3 DVD, if you go to the scene selection on Blink and go to a certain scene without clicking it and press the up button, you can select the title. What happens if you do this? Well, the full video can be played of the Easter egg in the episode. It's an Easter egg within an Easter egg. What did I tell you? Easter Eggception.
6.
At the halfway point, we delve into the mystery behind Queen Elizabeth in the show. Now, in a show about time travel, things don't always happen in the correct order, and this is a prime example of that. In 2007, in the episode The Shakespeare Code, at the very end of the episode, we see the Doctor meet Queen Elizabeth for the first time, from his point of view anyway. But from Queen Elizabeth's point of view, she has clearly already met him. In fact, she wants his head. So clearly the Doctor did something to upset her. There was no other mention of her for another 2 years, and even then it was extremely brief. In 2009's The End of Time, at the beginning of the episode, the Doctor mentioned that during his travels he had married Queen Elizabeth, but this was the last story for this version of the Doctor, so we, the viewers, assumed at this point that we were never going to find out about what happened. However, 4 years after this, in the 50th anniversary story, Day of the Doctor, David Tennant's Doctor returned, and so did Queen Elizabeth, a much younger version of her than we saw in the Shakespeare Code. During this episode, the Doctor did indeed marry her, but before leaving in the TARDIS, he claimed, "I will be right back." Obviously, putting two and two together, he never returned, and thus left her on her own for many years, until she sees him again in the Shakespeare Code. But that much younger version of the Doctor wouldn't have met her yet, and had no idea of the marriage. So there's another mystery solved, and a very ingenious Easter egg that ran over the course of 6 years, from 2007 to 2013.
5,
At number 5, we have an Easter egg that most people might have missed. In the episode Human Nature, the Doctor chooses to become human with no memory of his alien life to avoid having aliens try to track him down. And with his new human life, he of course has to have new human memories. When discussing his childhood with his lover Joan, he mentions that his mother and father were named Sidney and Verity. This was a reference to Sidney Newman and Verity Lambert. Sidney Newman was a Canadian film and television producer, and when he moved to Britain, he worked with the Associated British Corporation, ABC, and then in 1962 moved to the BBC. While working for the BBC, he came up with the idea for Doctor Who and had a huge part in its production. Meanwhile, Verity Lambert was the very first full-time producer for the show, and one of the first female producers to ever have responsibility on their own for television. Without these two, Doctor Who wouldn't have gotten off the ground. So, in a way, they really are the parents of Doctor Who, just as suggested in the episode.
4,
Next up, at number 4, is a little reference to the TV show Star Trek. In the two-part story Under the Lake and Before the Flood, the Doctor and Clara end up on an underwater base. In the cafeteria on this base, there are some murals on the wall, one of which looks like a ship with 3 Star Trek characters there, in the gold shirt, the blue shirt, and the red shirt. Of course, the red shirt would probably die in the flood. No one knows why this little Easter egg was put into the show, but it was mostly likely just a little nod to the fans of both shows, especially with the 50th anniversary of Star Trek coming up the following year.
3,
Down to the top 3. In third position, we have A113. What do we mean by this? Well, first we have to look into the Pixar films. First, this code has been carefully placed into most, if not all, of Pixar's films, sometimes written as A1-13 or A-113, but it's nearly always there in some form or another. The question is, why? Well, this code represents the classroom that was used by graphic design and character animation students at California Institute of Arts. This became understandable for the students who became leaders of Pixar to use in their films, but why is it used in other forms of media? In Doctor Who, in the episode Flatline, it's the name of a train. But it doesn't just stop there. It's been in American Dad, Family Guy, The Simpsons, Lilo and Stitch, The Powerpuff Girls, Firefly, The Avengers, Terminator Salvation, Back to the Future, The Game, Fallout 4, and many more. Why does it appear? It's best not to question it, but next time you're watching something or playing a game, look out for it. A113 might be there.
2,
In the runner-up spot, we have 2311631716. This is the base code that Clara used to activate the Vortex manipulator in the 50th anniversary episode, Day of the Doctor, which was carved into the wall by the Doctor when he was trapped in the past. What's so special about it, you may be asking? Well, if we divide the numbers up into the UK format for date and time, we get 23rd November 63 at 1716. If we go back to that date and time, we see that it's when the first ever episode of Doctor Who, An Unearthly Child, was broadcast 50 years previously. To include this little secret in the 50th anniversary episode, we definitely think was a terrific idea.
1,
And at the number 1 spot for the best Doctor Who Easter egg, it's a tricky one that has to be deciphered correctly. Nearing the end of Series 9, in the episode Face the Raven, there's a secret code. Hidden in the background is a word in a different language. That language is Orbish. Now, Orbish is a language that not everyone has heard of, and that's because it's a fictitious language in the Star Wars universe. That's right, Star Wars. Aurebesh was a writing language used to transcribe Galactic Basic, which happens to be the most used language in the galaxy, so commonly used that it apparently appears in Doctor Who, too. Who would have guessed? The question next is, what does the sign translate to? When using the Aurebesh language to translate, the sign reads DeLorean. This is where Back to the Future fans take over this mystery. In the film trilogy of Back to the Future, the DeLorean is the car that's used to transport Marty McFly and Doc Brown through time. So when you mix the space of Star Wars and the time of Back to the Future, you get all of space and time with Doctor Who.
Don't forget to like us and subscribe for more Elite Facts.